I'm sorry. I was just
Hi,
laughing because he said
buddy.
he had Christmas socks. I'm like, it's Halloween. So yeah, I know, but not on right now. So, okay. So Dr. Rob, betrayed partner here, married 41 years. Discovery was June of 2021 and full disclosure, November of 21. My essay husband is doing all the recommended recovery work, CSAT, essay group, sponsor, mentor, and therapist-led Helper Heal empathy group. He has had 4 slips since formal disclosure. The last one was 3 months ago. And he had a close call just 3 weeks ago. He told me recently that he had resentments against me, but didn't want to share them with me because it would hurt me. I wanted to hear it anyway because I value transparency, something I didn't realize was missing in him for 40 years. I found out he is resentful and angry with me that he's not able to pursue a hobby he loves because he acted out several times while playing it. And I'm still triggered. In the course of the conversation, he became defensive and angry and then verbally abused me. He says he has boundaries too and thinks we should only talk generically about our resentments and struggles and that this will help him feel safe. He wants to start doing Thanos together. Hang on, let me go see if there's more. Nope, together. Yes to doing Thanos together, but go ahead, Dr. Rob.
Well, this makes me very sad in some ways because, if you'd been married 3 years and something had come up, or 12 years, and he was struggling to be kind, to be honest, to really work on this, I would think, well, she has a lot more choices. But when you're like me and you've reached a certain point where you don't want to change your address, you don't want to change your situation, then you end up with a jerk like this that you've been living with for such a long time. And you're going to have to forgive my directness, but this makes me so angry because you've been married. Let me just put this down. You've been married 41 years. You found out that your husband's been cheating on you for 41 years. I don't care what work he's done. I don't care what he's doing. You only found, he's still having slips. And I don't believe there was a close call. Don't believe it for a heartbeat. I don't think this man is in recovery at all, because if he had a sponsor, if he was telling, I'll tell you about that in a second. But I think this is a total setup for you to feel badly for him. What he's doing is expressing a lot of narcissism, which is, okay, I don't want you to be angry anymore. I have my own issues to work through. I get to set my boundaries. You disappointed me. He cheated on you for 40 years. Who gives a poop's ass? He cheated. You have the right to string him up, more or less. And so what I see about your relationship, which happens a lot in the relationships that you work with, and Tammy will validate this, is you're the problem, and it's your responsibility that he hasn't had a happier life and done more, and he wouldn't be acting. What's implicit in there, I wouldn't be acting out if I just didn't have this resentment. Well, trust me, he'd be acting out, period, because he is emotionally ill. And the people I work with don't make decisions about, I'm going to stop or I don't. If they could do that, they wouldn't be 40 years in a relationship lying. So I also 4 slips since November. When was it? Since
Since
disclosure.
formal disclosure, which was November. So
Okay.
yeah.
I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I don't believe a word this man is saying, because if he were, and I'll tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to give it to Tammy, who also probably has a few feelings about this. I'm trying to be so direct and carrying some anger, because I hope you're angry and I hope you get angry, because this is incredibly insulting and abusive. It's like saying, I hit you for 40 years across the face. And, I just realized that probably wasn't a good thing to do. But, I've really had a problem with you for a long time. And you got to go carefully, because I don't want you going after me about my hitting you. I mean, if you put it in another context, what he's doing is just off the charts. And I think that he has found a way to push you back, which is to blame you, to change the conversation to you, then become defensive. I mean, there's a little game that's getting played out here, and I'm really discouraging you from playing it with him. I really want you to stick with how you feel and what's really going on. So, and by the way, excuse my language, shitty thing to do, to say, oh, and there's something I don't like about you, and I guess I'm not, it's like none of your, it's like someone close to you saying, I don't like you anymore. Bye. Of course you want to know. Of course and of course that makes him make you unsettled. So all of that I read is about making you blamable, making him be able to validate his resentments, pushing you back from being angry on a whole lot of, you're being gaslit. Maybe that's a great way of putting it. There is one more thing, which is, I don't know, I have a feeling, having worked with these kind of gentlemen before, that he's lying to his therapist. And because if I were telling my therapist in this situation, well, I've been yelling at her and she just keeps pushing me and I don't understand why she's still angry. And trust me, we say CSATs, if nothing else, we study this partner betrayal and helping couples heal and all that stuff. And what he is doing is the opposite. He's doing the opposite of that, which means he's not checking in with people about how he's treating you or the other decisions. Did he decide to tell you about his slips, or did the sponsor, did the therapist? Under what circumstances are you told? I mean, this is just a big mess. And I also hear, by the way, you said he's doing all the recovery work. I think you're the one who's doing all the recovery work. I think he is mouthing the words until you're not angry anymore. And then he could say, okay, whoo, I did 6 months of that and everything's all better and don't bother me about it anymore. So this is a very troubled man. I really believe so. And I work with lots, we're all troubled. I have issues for sure. But this is a troubled man who is probably in his 60 somethings and he doesn't have a clue about the abuse and the narcissism and how much he's hurt you. And that makes me angry for you. And no offense to Tammy, but you are way beyond Fanost. I'd like to see you. I want you to see a lawyer. I want you to lock the doors. I want you to, well, let me back up. I'd like you to go sit with his CSAT together and explain to the therapist what you've been going through and what you've been experiencing, not because you want to be finding out anything, not because you're doing investigation with the therapist, not because you're interrupting his therapy, which is what he'll say. You're interrupting my therapy. Actually, I'm your partner. So find out what the therapist says. I guarantee you, if you can get this somewhere in between what's going on and him, with another person or another situation, it's going to help you a lot. And by the way, I'll say one more thing. This is absolutely, without question, someone should come to our treatment center. I really mean that. And by the way, we have a waiting list right now, don't we, Tammy? But I'm telling you, like, this is, if he's at this age and he doesn't realize, and I say this to the guys, no offense, but I say to the guys, you know what, who are like 64, you know what, in 10 years, who's going to be cleaning your diapers? Who's going to be helping you go back and forth to the doctor when you're an older man and you've been chasing tail or whatever you've been doing, and now you expect your spouse to show up and take care of you? So one of the things that a man like this doesn't realize is how old he is. He's still living like a 40-year-old, as opposed to accepting his age and dealing with it anyway. Can you tell me this brought up a lot of feelings?
Oh yeah, no, and I'm right with you. But I was going to tag on that, the going to his CSAT, and if he goes, no, my CSAT won't. That's a lie. His CSAT will absolutely see you as part of gathering collateral information. But I agree that he's lying to his therapist. He's lying to you. A slip is, like within 24 hours showing up and telling you, and this is. Like, I have a feeling you're discovering all this, and he's doing all the right things. I think he's at most he's checking off the box. At most he's checking off the boxes. Like, I'm going to my 12-step meeting. Is he going every day? Is he going once a week? But I was like, you're going to a class on Help or Heal and you're verbally abusing your wife. I mean, really? I bet that's not part of the curriculum. I'm 100% sure of that, So to me, this is, there's a huge disconnect. Yes, everybody needs healthy boundaries. A healthy boundary for him is not going off and doing a hobby at the expense of his relationship that he acted out in that will trigger you. That's a healthy boundary for him too. Like, I don't know what's in his outer circle, middle circle, and inner circle, but I bet that hobby is in his at least middle circle, for now. If eventually you really see a transition and it's very different, or he has, I'm making it up, say it's golf, and he goes golfing with other people, so that it's like with recovery people. So there's a different thing. I don't know what his hobby is, doesn't matter. But I'm saying there's lots of things. He can grieve the loss of the hobby that he loved, or you can grieve the loss of the relationship with you. But to me, it's like, like, really, what's more important? You're whining about your hobby that you had to give up. Find a new one that you guys can do together if you want to do something with him. But this is lip service, and action is not just doing the right things, but showing that I'm learning something different in what I'm doing and not blaming you. So
yeah, I think, one of the things that I challenge the sex addicts with when they're in treatment is that what's hard for them is they've lost control. They used to be able to control, you knew nothing about what they were doing, and they could tell you what they wanted you to hear. When I went to the grocery store, you'd say, okay. I went to work for the weekend. Okay. Like you would accept and trust, but they lose their power when you know. And now, in my opinion, you're in charge. You're driving the bus. You're the one who gets to say, we're going to or not. I agree. I don't. Like, you're in charge. And us addicts, we don't like that. We want to maintain control. And so to push you back and say, well, you did this and you didn't, is to take, my power back. But this man, does not deserve that. I wrote a couple of, I wrote one more note. And this is a little kind of secret. It may be that your husband doesn't feel comfortable taking you into the therapy session. I would guess I know why. You don't need a release of any kind. There is nothing legally wrong on any level. If you call his therapist and say, I know that we can't speak to each other, I'm not sure I've released, but some things I'd like you to know from my perspective. And say, he yelled at me, he said, this is exact, read this to the therapist and say, I don't need you to call me back. I'm not coming from anger. I just really need you to know I'm not sure if this is coming out in the therapy and I'm concerned. And if you want me involved, please ask him and I will. And, you don't need his permission to do this. You have a right to protect yourself and set a boundary. And here's the boundary. If you're abusing me, I'm going to reach out to your recovery sources. I'm going to let them know that I'm being abused. Now, if nothing happens or nothing comes back to you, you'll have other steps to take. And by the way, I don't hear one more thing. There's so much on here, Tammy, that I heard he has a sponsor. How many meetings is he going to? Does he attend one meeting a week or two? And by the way, he has, and there's so much in here, Tammy. So how much is he really invested in his recovery as an active? Recovery is not words. It's how many meetings, how many groups, how often are you calling people?
What steps are you working? Not just warming a seat. And I know lots of people that warm a seat. It's what step are you on? Where are you in the recovery process? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
I'm a
that's
little passionate
okay.
about that.
I have a really big issue here as well, and I want to put this out there, which is he has a sponsor, he has a mentor, he has a therapist in the Help or Heal group, he has his own therapist. If you have four different, that's, first of all, it's not really ethical for us to even do that. But for him to have four different therapists giving him four different pieces of information, which gives them an opportunity to manipulate in four different ways, this is a potential for a problem, because we say, well, this person did that and this person said that, and then before you know it, everybody's looking at each other except not looking at him. So I think some boundaries on your part, which is setting commitments to yourself, that you can follow them, you cannot, but they're your commitments. And by the way, I know that Tammy might say this is sneaky, maybe it is, but I would tomorrow morning, if he wasn't around, I would call the therapist. And then I would say in the afternoon, honey, I just want you to know, don't ask his permission, because he's going to say no.
No.
And then he's going to line the therapist up and he'll say to the therapist, my wife's really crazy and she's just yelling on now. I think she's even going to call you. So he will set you up. So I would just make the call. Tell him that Dr. Rob Weiss said that he thought it would be a really good idea if they had this information. I have trained most of the CSATs in one form or another, so they'll know who I am, and maybe they'll take that as a meaningful thing. Anyway, Tammy, let's keep going. There's
Yes.
a lot on that question.
Yes, there was. So thanks for being here and asking. Okay. The next one is, my SA partner ran away 8 weeks ago and is in deep addiction, acting out and going on dates with other people. He left the relationship in a conflict without a word and blocked me everywhere. I asked for closure last week after 8 weeks, respecting his boundary of not contacting him, and I went for a walk. I listened to him, but all he did was blame me, telling me I was abusive, and he felt mentally and physically and emotionally threatened. I stayed calm and asked him for specifics to understand better. He said he didn't want to share. After our talk, he unblocked me with a message. Hi, I'm unblocking you to talk some things through if you want. I don't want to send the wrong message from this unblocking. I don't want to get back together. I don't want to be amicable or maybe friends at the end. I don't hate you. Whoa.
Nice.
Hope you are well. And we can talk sometime about seeing the kids. And against my own judgment and others, I'm considering this and maybe should not, because it's rewarding. I really love him and would love to work through this. However, I know he is in deep addiction at the moment and spends days on social media looking at apps and all the other things. I miss the kids and him a lot, so it must be his kids. He said he loves me but does not want to be with me. I confronted him with hookup apps, and he said He is just seeking healthy relationships and is consulting his friends and therapists. I doubt that they are aware of what he's doing. My question is, how should I react to this message? I feel scapegoated. I do want to work things through therapeutically, but I also do understand that he is in the worst place he's ever been.
I'll say one thing, Tammy, and then I really want you to lead, if you don't mind. This is the second example directly that we have of someone who in one way or another has pushed the other person back, said it's your fault, punished them. I'm guessing he's got something going on out there that he's really happy with, and he doesn't want to face you because he'll have to feel bad about himself. And by keeping you completely out, he can do whatever the heck he wants and not be responsible for his own past behavior. So, Tammy?
So I think we can love people that aren't the right fit for us. We can love people who can't return the love to us. I really want to know what you perceive you would. I understand you missing the kids and all that, but what do you perceive will be the benefit of being in any way connected to? He's been really clear. I don't hate you. Like, I'm sorry, how dismissive. I don't want to be in a relationship with you and I don't hate you.
Mean.
Well, yeah, it is. It's really mean. And I think you deserve better. And here's another thought. If you are devoting energy to this relationship that's one-sided and he will always take and you will never get, then you will not have the opportunity to grieve through this. And at some point when you're ready, find somebody who actually can be a partner for you, who can give you the love and cherish you in the way that you deserve to be. So if you continue to pour your love and attention into somebody who just unblocked you, but he doesn't hate you, then you, I think you're going to get stuck. I think you're going to get stuck addicts are really good at this. We're addicts. We know, I'm going to pull you in, then I'm going to push you away. And then I'm going to pull you in and then I'm going to push you away. And nothing you can do or not do is going to make him change. You can only take care of you. So my hope for you would be that you'd set a healthy boundary for you and focus on you. Dr. Rob?
Yeah, I think that if I had to boil all of this down to 2 or 3 sentences, this man doesn't want to be with you. He's just not that into you. I hate to say it that way. And regardless of, you're very focused on what he does and how you confronted him, and who cares? He walked out on you. He disappeared for 8 weeks. He blocked you without any opportunity. This is really, really abusive, and it's a mind F-U-C-K. It's not he's blaming you and then not telling you why and letting you in and letting you out. I think that so 2 things. Number one is, well, we have 3. Reality wins is one of my favorite statements to make. And there is nothing you can do to make any of this different. The reality is he left you. He doesn't want to be with you, and he's moved on with his life, period. And he's done it in a mean way, in a horrible way, in a difficult way. And maybe it is all about his addiction. But if that's true, he will wake up one day and say, where is she? I love her. And how could I have done this? Maybe. But you can only go with what you've got. You can't make him better. You can't make him sicker. You can't figure out what's going on with him. You can try. But what are you going to do with your life? Because this man has left you. And what I hear, and I keep saying that very directly, and I'm so sorry, but if you know me, I'm a pretty straight shooter, is that you have to find a way to move on with your life. And I didn't hear, by the way, we were married for 23 years, or even that we were married. Not that that's, everything, but there is a sign of commitment. So this man has not been, so by the way, I love generating fight and then leaving. My favorite way to leave a relationship. You screwed up and I hate you and I'm out of here. What a great way to leave. It's your fault and I'm furious and you did it and I'm never going to let you know what, all of that. I think he's a pretty troubled guy. And so there's 2 things I said are here. One is this man doesn't want to be with you and you need to move on. The other is there's an amazing lesson for you in here. How do I want to be treated? What are my expectations of a relationship? When will I say this isn't working for me? And I'll tell you from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Rob's relationship rule. I have one rule. I have lots, but one rule for relationships that I'm in with friends or coworkers or care, whatever it is. And I will keep my heart open to anyone as long as this happens. And it's the following. You can hurt me. You can let me down. You can leave me feeling ashamed. I will still love you as long as you can come back and own it. As long as you can back and say, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that. As long as you can own the hurt that you've caused, I'm still in, because I'm interested in being with people who can reflect on their own decisions and own behavior and understand that they need to bring that back to the relationship, not shove the relationship away. People let you down all the time, but if they don't come back and say, I realized I let you down and I'm sorry, then they're not connected to you. And really, they're just being abusive. And I don't want that. And I'll say one more thing, of course. I grew up in a family where nobody talked about anything. No one, and in particular, no one ever acknowledged what was going on, the illness. You grow up in an alcoholic family and no one says, well, the reason dad's throwing plates is because he's alcoholic. And you think, well, why does dad throw plates? If my family had ever said to me once, gee, we weren't the best parents, or we made some mistakes, because I grew up with a lot of illness, it would have meant everything. So the fact that this man does not own anything or take any responsibility, this would not be my friend, because in this situation, it's all my fault. And I can't live in relationships where it's all my fault. Okay, I'm done.
Well, and she said, I feel scapegoated. You are.
You are.
Yeah, so that is a real feeling. And you're like, how do I react to this? I would grieve the loss of the relationship I hope for, but I would block him. You take the initiative. Like, no, I
Right.
don't need
Right.
anything from you. I'm gonna go find a healthy relationship. That's what he's doing. Looking for healthy relationships on hookup apps. He's lying to himself. He's lying to everybody else. You can't save him, because you said, I understand he's in the worst place, but I miss the kids. Oh, you said I confronted him with the hookup apps and he said he's just looking for healthy relationships. It won't matter what you say. He will always, come up with a reason and excuse why it's okay. It's not really his fault, whatever. So again, I hope you grieve the loss. Don't just, go off, think about this, learn from it, create a list of who would resonate with you, what you're really looking for, what you deserve in a real relationship, where there's a partner who can actually show up for you and like Dr. Rob says, can own their stuff. So
I do want to say one more thing to you, which is what the truly saddest thing is, because you're two adults and he can be mean or awful or whatever. But whatever state your relationship is in, whether it's 5 years old or 15 minutes, he took the time to introduce you to those children. And it sounded like that you opened your heart to those children. And that's the saddest part for both ends, is that his behavior has torn those children away from someone who meant something to them. And he's punishing you in part by saying, and I don't want you to talk to me so you don't get to see the children. So he's hurt you and he's hurt them. And in the big picture, honestly, hurting them is my bigger concern. I hope you move on, you'll find someone else. But those kids will forever wonder, why did we like her so much? We had so much fun, then dad went away, because I guarantee he's not telling him. So that's the
yes,
biggest sad piece to me in that picture.
but you can't save those kiddos either. It's he will always manipulate
Well, he
around
won't.
that. So he right. But anyway, okay, my husband has been sober from sex addiction for a year and 11 months. My question is it normal for them to have wet dreams? They seem to pop up when we have an argument, late night talk, addiction, talks addiction related or stresses he has from work. He also can a male go without sex for a long time, and does there need to be a release over time? So I want you to answer I want to know, why are you having late night talks about addiction related, and like, just back that up. There should be we only talk about this and the deadline is 7:00. But anyway, Dr. Rob.
Yeah, I'm in bed and I got to tell you, I'm reading a book. I'm listening to some music. I'm watching. I mean, I might say, can you pass me the tray? But this is not a good time to, there needs to be a boundary for your own sanity and safety, just in terms of rest and good self-care. So I agree with Tammy. There's a lot of missing pieces from this that I can't fully answer the question, because, for example, have you stopped having sex? Has he stopped having sex? What does it mean that he's going a long time? Because I don't see, being sober from sex addiction is not the same thing as not having sex. And some people in their recovery masturbate, and some people in their recovery don't, and it's different for everybody. But so there's one half of the question I can't answer, which is, it normal to have wet dreams? It depends on the circumstance. And then the other thing that comes up for me, of course, being an addict, is, are they really wet dreams? And what is he really doing? And I can't help but think that, because that's how I would be thinking as an addict. And the last thing is, and this is true, there are many, many men that I've worked with who had to take who chose in our working relationship to take 3 months or 6 months off of sex, just not engaging in it, not with themselves and others, which is a great learning experience on a lot of levels. But some men, I got to tell you, some of the smartest, most intelligent, successful men will come to me and say, is something bad going to happen? Kind of like it's going to fall off or something. So especially a sex addict. So here's the thing, if you have it absolutely right, if we go for long periods of time and our fluids build up in our body, then our body will take care of itself and we will release them, and we will do it when we're asleep. So absolutely, the men that I've worked with who've taken longer periods of time and they're not having any orgasms, the body takes care of itself. I am concerned about, by the way, they don't happen that often. They might happen once every few months, maybe. So when you say they've been popping up, and I have to say the popping up just,
Yeah.
the popping up part just gets me.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I won't say why. But in any case, I'm gonna say one more thing. There feels like there's a manipulation in here somewhere, which is, if you're going to talk to me about this stuff, then guess what's going to happen? I don't know if that's true or not, but what a great way to stop you from talking about difficult things, by his saying, oh, and every time you do, my body just goes haywire. I don't know. So we don't have enough information. The last question, yes, we can go for sex for long periods of time, and our body will take care of the release in the form of a wet dream. That is true. But that doesn't happen in 3 weeks or 3 months. It happens with an extended period of not being sexual. Yeah. Anything about that, Tammy?
I have other little snarky things to say, like, well, it's not going to fall off because what you were doing with it before didn't make it fall off, so it probably won't fall off if
Yeah.
you not use
Let's
it.
not
So
build resentments, and let's be
I'm not.
kind and
No, I know. I'm trying to
empathic.
be
And
kind. It was just kind of one of those. Yeah, it doesn't fall off.
but I want to
But
point out that Tammy's angry for you. This
yeah,
is her standing up and saying,
I just
you
want to know
know,
why you're having those conversations at night. Like, please get your own sleep. Like, so we talk about this all the time on other webinars and things too, but like, have a list, have a scheduled time. Like on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a discussion that's going to be for 20 minutes, 10 minutes each. We're going to, check in with each other. We put Fanos in there. There's lots of ways to check in. But if something is bothering one of you or the other, you write it down and you bring it up at that time. And then there's a safe place, and everybody knows it's a safe place, and it's a set time. And if you need more time or you need to step away, you come back to it. But that keeps it from being this issue at the end of the, my husband knows we don't talk, like, he has mistakenly said something. I'm just getting ready to go to bed, and all of a sudden, like, he says something, and it's like, like paying a bill or whatever, and I'm like, my eyes are wide open, I can't sleep, and it's not helpful. So I have worked really hard on saying that's a great thing to bring up to me in the morning, and I'm happy to do whatever, talk about, but like no good can come of things when I'm too tired. So that was my thought. Okay. So this is a continuation every night. So it's, I think it
could
was,
we,
he wants to do Fanos. So
do you
yeah.
think we could, I think we spent so much time with that
Yes.
question. I'd
Yeah.
love to move on.
Yes. Okay. So let's do. Okay. So the next one is, hello, I've noticed that my SA husband often says things like, I wish I had never told you about my addiction and just
Sought help on
sought
my
help
own.
by
Mhm.
myself to get this under control, or I wish I had never brought this into our marriage. He disclosed his addiction to me last December as part of a rather counterproductive no-fap program that goes
Right.
by
No
the
fap
old
is,
codependency idea. So not helpful for us at all. He started seeing a CSAT in May when I moved out for a temporary separation. He's seeing a CSAT bi-weekly. One of my requirements to continue our marriage was to get a full therapeutic disclosure. I believe he is still not in a place to actually do the formal therapeutic disclosure. He has told his CSAT various times that he wants to do it, but I assume that his CSAT probably sees that a formal therapeutic disclosure at this point won't be helpful. To me, it really sounds like he is still in a lot of denial and shame when he says things that I stated above. Do you think I'm assuming correctly, or do you think a CSAT should be pushing him more? That's
well,
a lot of great information. Thanks for sharing
a
that.
lot of
So,
questions.
mhm.
So I don't, Tammy, I'm really bad at this. Does bi-weekly mean twice a week? or twice a month,
A
every other week?
semi-weekly is twice, bi-weekly is every other,
Okay, so it
every
is
2 weeks.
completely, I don't know how you got to every 2 weeks, but this is someone who should, first of all, none of us, uh, if I wanted to learn how to cook, uh, and I just went for, 45 minutes a week, and then otherwise I couldn't be involved with any of it, no stoves, no food, I probably wouldn't learn as well as if I was going every single week and had homework assignments. And so the fact that you had to talk him into going twice a month instead of his just, so why did you have to talk him into any of this once he understood what's happened and what he's done? By the way, NoFap is it's an online program for that kind of demonizes porn, lots of young men. There's a lot of misogyny in there. It's not really, it's only run by people who've been through it. There's no real coaches, or certainly no master's level or licensed therapists. So I don't think that's a place I would recommend. That's where a lot of 19-year-olds go to try to get help when they don't have any other resources. Um, so more things. It's been 7 months and he hasn't done disclosure with you. 7 months. Now, Tammy and I do know therapists that make it go on and on and on. To me, that is just torture for you. When I work with people in an outpatient setting, unless there was something really bizarre going on, once we got the spouse stabilized with support, once we'd gone through their list of disclosure a few times to make sure it was pretty accurate, we do disclosure within 90 days. And I would tell the spouse, unless something really awful happens, we're going to do it on this date. So it wasn't, first of all, it wasn't up to them. It was up to me, the therapist, and I knew the boundaries of it. So part of it might be, I don't know the CSAT and I don't know how they work. They work very differently. Tammy and I tend to refer to people who are not doing that kind of thing when someone calls us to make a referral, because we understand, I certainly understand, how could you be a spouse who's sitting out there 6 months and not knowing this person's in your house, maybe they're in your bed, what the heck have they been out there doing? That would drive me insane. There's something more here. Yes, I think there's a lot of denial. Yes, I think you should push harder. Yes, I think you should also call the CSAT and say, I just want you to know all this stuff is going on. And I'm not sure if you were aware of it.
Can you
Yeah,
talk about that?
and
I wish I'd never told you about my addiction and sought help or that I've never brought this into my marriage, because that feels like, oh, poor me to me.
well, I like number two,
Yeah.
because number two says, I wish I had, to me, I
Hmm.
wish I hadn't married you without your knowing this. Or I wish I
Oh,
didn't
that's
have
fair.
the
Yeah.
or I wish I had not brought this problem to us together. So, I'm not sure that's what he means, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But number one, I wish I'd never told you my addiction, sought help for myself to get this under control, means I wish you'd never found out. I hate the conflict it's brought up for us. I wish I could just keep hiding and lying. By the way, none of that bodes well for his disclosure. And the fact that it's gone on so long that it hasn't happened. NoFap, old codependent. Yeah, codependency is not helpful. We don't support the idea of codependency. It puts blame on the partners. We are pro-dependent.
Hmm.
Oh, and you moved out. That's the other piece. Did you move back? Because I would not move back until I had my disclosure. I would not move back until he was going to therapy every week. I don't know if you're still separated, but in my mind, why not? Because what has this person really done except see someone? Is he going to 12-step meetings? Does he have a therapy group? Is he reaching, going to therapy every other week when he has this history? So I want to back up and say, in a very general and kind way, a lot of you partners are way too focused on the addict and not focused enough on what you see right in front of your eyes and believe, and then take care of yourself. Because we are so good at manipulating, we're so good at telling you it's okay when it isn't. We are so good at making you feel like there's two things. One, making you feel like you're the problem. And this one I've seen consistently, which is, oh, I don't want you to bring up that too much because, that might be hard for me. As if, anyway. So I do think, as I always say, I think you partners are a little too easy on us in some ways, not necessarily verbally, but certainly with what you're asking us to commit to. And then if we don't do it and we push back and say, I wish I'd never told you, or you're being too hard on me, or don't you know how much shame I'm feeling and you're making it worse, that's called BS. And I also don't see, and Tam, I'm going to leave this part to you. What support does she have?
Yeah. And I was actually going to ask about that, but I hear, like, I hear you holding some good boundaries about, well, in that, you know, you have to do at least the minimum, but I'm 100% with Dr. Rob about he's only seeing a therapist once every couple of weeks. Dr. Rob said it earlier, you know, about another question. Call the CSAT and say, I'm not seeing anything, I'm not doing this. But what 12-step group? We have our free drop-in groups, you know, lots of good support. We have our sex addiction 101 and porn addiction. Oh, wait, wrong finger. Porn addiction 101. If it really is just porn addiction 101 and sex addiction 101 both start. Today's October 31st. They start early in November. Great online, have a 3-circle plan, we get accountability, have peer support. There'd be foundational components. So yeah, I was troubled by the first one. I like Dr. Rob's spin on the second one with, but I was like, you can't be in recovery and you know, and never tell. Like that's part of being accountable.
That's healing.
Yes, yeah, we do our 4-step, we do our 5th step, we do the work, but at some point we have to say, here's my journey, here's what I've had to do. So that, you know, if he is still mouthing those type of things, you know, that is, you know, a pretty big red flag too. So I go back to what Dr. Rob said. What are you doing for you? Again, free drop-in groups. We've got a betrayed partner work group starting in January again. There's lots of support for you to help navigate this very complex situation. But I hope he gets it. Oh, one more idea. I just thought of this. Dr. Rob does a one-time 2-hour expert consultation. Now he has a CSAT, so you may be better off working through the CSAT, but we have people who are stuck, that come and get an expert consultation. Yeah, they get clarification. I really think, I mean, he is so good. I feel like this is one of your superpowers, is like you are able to, you know, cut through all the weeds and go, here's the issues and here's some steps for moving forward. So people who are new in the process or stuck, you know, that can be a really good option for you, but it's just an option. So anyway.
Right. And I one of the reasons, Tammy, that I think you're right and you're getting help, the partners, is that almost all of these, I don't feel like you have enough information about the process. It's far too easy for us to say, oh, well, disclosure might be a year, or, you know, well, I never do that because this, that, or the other thing. And or my therapist says that you this or that, you know, you just don't know. And I think that being in, whether, you know, it's taken, and I agree with Tammy. We offer a series of courses for a reason. These are not things that happen in therapy. Therapy is not an educational component. You don't have a workbook. You're not doing homework. You're not relating to, you know, the 30 other men or women, depending on we're just two men's, right? Men who are in that room.
Is female. Yeah.
Well, betrayed partners. Well, we don't do any mixed gender addiction groups, but we supplant therapy. No, we don't supplant it. We support it.
Supplement.
We supplement, thank you.
Yeah,
we supplement it. And I think there's something reassuring to a spouse saying, oh, okay, so you're taking that course and you've got the workbook and you're doing the work. You know, I think, and by the way, there's other men there who are asking questions and engaging. And sometimes the guys say, can I give you a call sometime? Because I'm married too, and I have 3 kids. And so they help build. Anyway, it's a really useful thing. We do charge for that. But that allows us to pay for all the free stuff that we do.
Low cost. Most of those 6-week courses, 90 minutes a week, live facilitated, they're not just watching videos, are $350 for the entire 6-week course. And many therapists refer their clients to them because they find that their clients make more progress and can have more information that they can bring back to their therapist. So it really is a supplement to, you know, the therapy that is being done. It's not therapy, it's not treatment, but it really can be a useful component.
So let's move forward.
Okay. When someone makes a direct amends, step 9 to you, is there an appropriate response? Say thank you.
Tammy?
So I've been on I've been on both sides of this. So the first times when I was doing it, I was terrified. Having people say, you know, I accept your apology or your amends or whatever. Thank you is appropriate. Acknowledgement. I mean, there is no expectation for the person making it that there will be any response. You could say, you know, F off or whatever. So it's one of those. be true. If you are grateful for it, so I'm grateful that that you came to me. Thank you. And whatever. If you don't believe it's sincere, that may be a whole different thing. I've been really fortunate, and it was interesting because I've had people that said, I owe you an amends, and they told me, and I was like, oh wow, thank you. I like
Right.
it. So it wasn't even an issue for me, but I did that. One of the most terrifying ones for me, the person was like, I wasn't even aware of that. So like, it really is
Mhm.
kind of a powerful thing. Apology accepted. I mean, whatever,
And it's not
but
really in some ways for the other person. Um, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tammy, but this is a 12-step perspective on what I was saying before, which is healthy people own their shit, and they talk about their part. And a lot of the people we work with obviously are not particularly healthy. And this is one of the things that the 12-step programs do. They step by step, that's what I call them, the steps, take you through a healthy way of living. And a lot of us didn't grow up with healthy ways of living. So for someone to be, even if they're taught, that's fine, to come forward and say, I did really harm you, and this is my part, and I'm sorry. To the other person, my mind is such a relief, because half the time you think it was your fault, or you said the wrong thing, or it is a relief. I want to say something about it in a second. But the appropriate response is what's in your heart. It's and I've heard, I don't think I can ever forgive you for that.
mm,
I've written people who wouldn't return my calls, and I've told them, and they never wrote me back. It's really not at all, if you are doing it right, about the response. In fact, that's why it's so far down the scale. It isn't the first or the second step, is because I want to have the right motivations for apologizing. I want to say, whatever you decide, however you respond to this, I want to give you the respect of taking responsibility for this, and I'm sorry. But what you do with it is none of my business. And if I walk in with this, oh, well, maybe if I say it this way, or maybe they'll forgive me, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing at all. And in fact, many ways, I think disclosure is like that. Disclosure is about owning my stuff to you. It's not an apology. It's not well, I hope you'll forgive me now that you know everything. It's I did this. This is what you need to know. I am sorry. And there'll be a lot more we're going to talk about later. So in a way, I think it does kind of mirror that. Um, I just want to tell a little personal story, if I may, because I don't know if this means anything to you, but Tammy knows that one of my dearest friends passed away last year unexpectedly. He had metastasized lung cancer. He died in 4 months. We're the same age, one of my dearest people in the world. And so, but this is what happened. He called me up. He passed away in November, early December last year, but he called me in July. And he said, we haven't talked a while. And I just want you to know, I think I need to tell you that there are a lot of things that we hadn't talked in a long time. He hadn't been responding to my calls. He hadn't been, I just felt like, what did I do wrong? Whatever. And I kept reaching out, happy birthday, didn't hear back, thinking of you, never. And then called me last April, and he said, I really want to talk to you. I have this disease, and I'm not going to be around much longer. And he said, I want you to know that none of this was ever your fault.
mm,
I want you to know that the distance between us, and the distancing and my not responding, that was my bad, And to be honest, just to say that I was and continue to be the only person, in addition to his family, who's been invited to his memorial or been a part of it. I was there when he died. And all I'm saying to you is that I made this assumption for years and years and years and years and years, that I wasn't getting responded to because I did this and because I did that. And I'd look at his picture, think about him, and say, well, what didn't I miss? And I'm sorry, what did I? And the truth is, it wasn't mine at all. He's just someone who closes a door, and that's how he is. And so that statement of, it was never your fault, this was my stuff, and I'm so sorry, it's changed everything in terms of how I look at that relationship. It's changed a lot in terms of how I look at myself. So I do think those moments where someone can turn to us and say, I did not mean to hurt you, and this is on me, can be life-changing. So that's a little personal stuff.
but I appreciate that you did what you needed to do to take care of you. Even if you were doing that, what did I do wrong? But like, you were reaching out to him, doing your side of it with no expectation, ultimately. But yeah, that was,
And that's my part. I hope you have a
yeah,
happy birthday. I'm thinking of you.
yeah,
Happy holidays. I never got a response, but he
yeah.
never blocked me,
Hmm.
So anyway, thank you for that, Tim.
Okay, so the next one, married 23 years, not first marriage, but currently the longest. He's 57 years old, a flight attendant, has chosen to stay disconnected from myself and our kids. June of 22, he did a messy disclosure with porn and sin that goes with that, which I believe is masturbation. I believe he has porn-induced erectile dysfunction. He's only begun seeing a CSAT in August and might have just seen him for the last time last Sunday this week. He's not going to discuss that with his church counselor, who is not abuse or trauma informed.
He is going to discuss that.
Oh,
So he's moving from the
he
therapist
is going
to
to discuss
the
it. Okay.
clergy.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, thank you for catching that. So the CSAT said he's in denial and doing ineffective treatment. He's being enabled by our church. That counselor thinks he's making progress. I told him there is no positive improvement at home. In October of last year, he said no more sex from me
I
because
said,
I said, thank gosh, I've got tears in my eyes still, Dr. Rob.
I
So
think it's your earrings. That's what's causing this.
no, it's tears in my eyes. Okay, I'm wiping my. I asked him, so I said no more sex from me because it made me feel used. I asked him, will he do his part to make this a better marriage for us? He will not discuss this without the church counselor. I told him I will not go back to the church counselor for more treatment trauma. I will discuss with our CSATs. No answer from him. I don't know if there's another. Oh yeah, wow, that relationship rule is good. But yeah, I don't see anything else on. Oh wait, we are no longer roommates. My husband. Hang on, I'll put this one in the. We are no longer roommates. My husband says he hasn't looked at porn since February. I don't believe him. Good for you. I recently asked him, what is your sobriety date? He had nothing to say. I told him if neither his CSAT or church counselor, then he doesn't have any sobriety date because there's a lot that goes into the definition. I'm tired of fighting for a marriage he doesn't seem interested in. We do have 2 minor children. Oh
I
goodness,
mean,
there's
this
way
is.
more. Hang on, they're in piecemeal.
Oh,
So,
there's more.
oh yeah.
Sorry. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's try some more. So a month ago, he told the 2 CSATs agreed that we should do a therapeutic separation out of the home with him leaving, but he is resistant and deflected to my faults of not owning his. When I asked my husband to meet with the church, his CSAT, my husband said, don't pretend there's goodwill between us and that I should reach out for you on this one of goodwill. So okay, one more. And then, okay, next time, put them in one, please. This is like, I had to go look for them. Okay, so later he said, I chose not to be manipulated into answering your question you asked me. My CSAT said there is so much wrong with his statement. That is true. By the way, I learned about your website through a CSAT I found. He actually leads a Sunday night guys group. My husband has had 2 months and he refused to join any support group and said he won't. Do I give up fighting for this marriage and pursue a legal separation?
Cami.
Well, the question is,
I know.
I know,
You
only
want
you
me to
can.
answer?
No, well, I mean, like only you
I
can
glad
decide,
to.
but please do. Yeah.
Well, I think you should give up fighting for the marriage. A marriage is 2 sides, it just is. And sometimes, things go my way, sometimes things go your way, but there's a balance. And you can't keep setting these boundaries and having him say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. No, because what does the boundary mean? If he says, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, do you just, get mad and go in the other room? Boundaries have to come along with a consequence. It's really like kids. It's like, I told you 3 times not to take that piece of cake. If you take that piece of cake, I'm not going to let you XYZ. If they take the piece of cake, then they don't get to XYZ. The boundary comes with a consequence. So if you set a boundary, like I need you to do this, or you have to do that, or I won't feel safe, and they say no, well, then what are you going to do? Because if you do nothing except get sad and frustrated and write us, we're glad to have your note. But then he learns that, well, he can do whatever he wants, and you're not going to really do anything about it. So, I don't, I think we've had a night, Tammy, of partners who they really want to stay in their relationships. They really want to make it work. And they cannot understand why the person they're with isn't just taking responsibility and moving forward. And I don't know about all these situations, but all of these men are saying something to you, and I want you to hear the statement. We have this thing in therapy called subtext. What is the person saying without using the words? I can say to you, I can't believe you didn't bring home the groceries, but the subtext is, I'm really angry at you. That's what's going on underneath. So with at least all of the three major stories, these men have told you what their subtext is with their lack of action. One of the things I learned as a therapist early, and I really appreciated this, was no action is an action. No action is not an action. No action is an action. So if you ask for this and ask for this and ask for this, and they don't do this and they don't do that, they are doing something. They're saying, I'm going to do what I want, because they are, and I'm not going to do what you want, because they're not. And, this is a problem. This is a big problem, because I don't hear that these men are getting a whole lot better. And I hear spouses turning themselves inside out, trying to make the relationship work, save it, do something. Who wants to be abandoned? Who wants to be alone? Who wants to think that someone would choose their addiction over me? But it happens every single day. And so a couple of things. You moved back in. I think this is the same
No,
person.
this is
Oh,
the
this
next one. No, it's another
okay.
one, but
That's someone else. Okay.
because you had said, are you out? And it moved back in. So it's along the same theme.
Right.
We have a lot of issues regarding safety, lots of verbal abuse. His CSAT and mine are
Right.
aware. I have moved back in
Yeah.
because he was financially pressuring
Right.
me.
No, that is a different person. I'm
Yeah,
sure
but
of it.
it's along the same. No, it is. It
We
was the
got
one that had moved
P.
out. No, this is the one that the formal therapeutic disclosure, but it's the biweekly.
Oh, let's finish this question. And
Yes.
then we can go back to that one.
Yes.
Um, I absolutely think, without question, and I can say this to you, without question, you need a lawyer to make sure that your finances are in order. I don't care whether you stay together, you don't stay, and by the way, that can be a little motivating to us addicts when you say, I was worried, you've been really unsafe, you've been acting in ways I didn't know about, and I have to protect our family, I have to protect myself. So I went to see an attorney just to make sure of my rights in terms of finances and all that. A lot of these gentlemen, believe it or not, will wake up when they hear that actually you're not going to put up with. I'm not telling you all got to run to lawyers, but I think this person said he's in my bed now.
No,
I'm
this
almost
one is
sure.
no, this is the I've learned a lot through our website. My husband has had 2 months
Thank
and he's
you.
refused to join any support groups and he won't.
Right.
I've been
Right.
fighting. Should I keep fighting for this marriage? So that's the purple.
It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is set a boundary that's very
Mhm.
clear. I think you're already thinking about it, because
Mhm.
you mentioned legal. I didn't. I think people who bring those things up have already thought about it. And I think you should go ahead and set a boundary and take care of yourself, and then say, I'm not sure if I want to move forward or not. You can clearly see that. Would you like to take another stab at making a different kind of commitment? By the way, feel free to send them to us. I think that's part of what the treatment center is for. I have so many men who come in and they say, yeah, I did this and I ruined my marriage, but my wife is so this and my wife is so that. And when I sit down in front of them, they begin to understand how responsible they are for the abuse that they've caused. And Tammy, I want to tell you that in all the years I've done this, I don't know if things have changed. I think maybe I'm listening more now in ways I hadn't, but I think a lot more of the men that we work with are breaking dishes, screaming, slamming doors, grabbing people by the hair, partners, verbally threatening, yelling. I mean, if you have a problem with your impulses and you're not able to contain your emotional life because you go act out sexually, or you drink in order to stabilize that, then it makes sense to me you'd be someone who would just backhand somebody or start yelling and screaming like an 8-year-old. And I just think that you partners put up a lot more abuse that you don't talk about here, related to all kinds of arenas and not just the sexual. But in any case, this man is not listening to you, not supporting you, not doing anything to regain your trust. And I would pay attention to all of that and make my decisions based on that. Because, by the way, all of you, we will manipulate the crap out of you if we can, and we have for years, but we can't manipulate our actions. They're either happening or they're not. And that's what you all need to see in order to be able to go forward, is action.
Well, and action, like with this one with the purple, it is, like he's trying to control like who he sees. So he wants to see the non-qualified professionals. I want to go see my clergy people who don't have any of the training to be able to deal with these, and then it's resistance to you. So his actions are absolutely, there's when I hear from partners, and I hear this a lot, well, he really likes his therapist. They're not qualified. I mean, they're not trained in these specific areas, but he really likes his therapist. So like the partner wants to buy in because he likes his therapist. I'm like, there's a reason he likes his therapist. You should respect your therapist, but you don't have to like them, because a good therapist in this area is going to hold you accountable. They're going to help you. But if you really like them, you're getting away with everything. And I really like my therapist because, they don't hold me accountable for anything. And I can blame my partner and all of that stuff. I can keep lying to them, but I'm going to see my therapist and I can check it off the box with my partner. So I often say to people, go consult an attorney, just so you have that information. Every state is different. Every situation is different. When you have children, like, you need to know so that you have the knowledge and information. So any decision you would make or not make, I mean, not making a decision to leave is still a decision, but like, you would have the information to be able to make an educated decision, not a reactive one. So whatever you need to get support for you and take care of your kiddos, because that's the other thing about all this is, this is what they're seeing. And so making sure that they're safely, there's safety for them as well. So we have
I
one
want
more.
to
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we can do the question. I was thinking about how to help you all with spouses, and I was thinking, is there a woman in your life that you love, whether it's your sister or your best friend from college or high school, or your daughter? Is there a woman or a girl in your life that you really care about? And, for me, one of my nieces, I just adore her. If she were telling me this story, how would I feel for her, and how would I want to protect her? Sometimes when we just think about it ourselves, it's really hard to decide right, wrong, good, bad, pushing, not pushing. But if I heard my sister talking about this, or my niece, or one of my best friends from high school, I would look at it. I would be listening very differently, and I would be much clearer. So you can do that little therapy trick, which is, instead of thinking about it going to you, think about you're telling another woman you really care about and you want her to do well. Listen to her asking you all the things you wrote, and think about what you would say to her, because I think in some ways that can make it easier. Thanks.
And to the green, because she added, this is the
Wait, why do you
bi-weekly
keep saying
therapy,
purple and green? I don't know.
because I don't want to use names in this. I'm careful
Oh,
about
I
that.
see.
So
I see.
yeah,
Oh, I
so
got it. Thank you.
I'm trying to help you,
I was
give
like,
you,
because
yeah.
those are Halloween colors. Let's not
Well,
forget
there
that.
you
So
go.
anyway,
But
go ahead.
she said, I moved back because he financially pressured me. And I'm like,
That's a lawyer time.
yes, it is. Cause like it, and he got what he wanted. And,
That's right.
so that wasn't a boundary for you, because like, it's only a boundary if you can hold the boundary, and it's not punitive. It really is for your financial, physical safety. You said that we've had a lot of issues with abuse and safety and all of that. So why, like Dr. Rob said, if it was a female that you really, really cared about, would you be going, oh, great idea, he pressured you, so you move back in so he can verbally abuse you? You deserve to be the biggest advocate for you, like you first. So okay,
And I just want
go
to
ahead.
add one more. This is part of the Betrayed Partners group, that we're
Mm-hmm.
running. There is a workbook, there is a course, but you will bond with other women who are dealing with this situation. And when we say Betrayed Partners group, the point of it is, what do you do if this isn't happening? Or how do you handle that? Or what happens if I'm really angry and I don't know? What if he's not doing the work, or she's not doing the work? That is the purpose, to answer all of these kinds of questions, only in a more active way. That's why we
And
wanted to teach
every
that.
addict is going to push on your boundaries. I don't know an addict that's going to go, oh, okay, you have a boundary on that. I don't like it, but I'm going to accept that. It's always going to be pushing. So how do I learn to hold and know that I am valuable and I deserve to hold this boundary for me? And like, it's challenging, and I'm not going to pretend it's not, but man, you guys deserve it. So, okay, last question. My essay husband, this is it from the 524. So look on your timestamp. My essay husband is not currently, it's two not. So I think is not currently following his recovery program. He's in a hospital situation for medical reasons. He could do recovery, but is choosing not to. Today, his physical therapist came to talk to us in his room about a home program. In the middle of the discussion, he looked at her and said, "You changed your top since we had a session this morning." After she left, I said, "I thought that was inappropriate." He said, "I was overreacting." I said, "This is just another example of him not being aware of my feelings. I felt as if I did not exist." I said, "This was mistreating me. I feel this is another example of poor recovery." I said, "I have to leave the room now and go home, and he needed to think about this. I feel my actions were correct." I agree.
Yeah, I mean, this is unacceptable. It's hard enough for some of our spouses when, in a reasonably human way, one of our sex addicts go, "Oh, that's attractive person keeps moving." But this is, I agree with you. It's all the things you said. It's abusive. It's mistreating you. It is poor recovery. Now, if he's taking a whole bunch of opiates, if he's high as heck or on morphine, I would give him the doubt because who knows what he's looking at or thinking. But if he's stable and not on drugs that set his brain on fire, he's responsible for this. And by the way, I want you to think about, what if you were that, what was she, physical therapist? How would you feel having this man in front of his wife, by the way, say basically, and I'll give you the subtext for this: "I've been looking at your boobs and they look different in that top than they did this morning." I mean, that's basically what he's saying to her, and that's what he's saying in front of you. And I bet that this woman didn't feel any more comfortable with what went on than you. But they're used to nurses and they're used to people doing all kinds of weird things and they just brush it off. But what an awful thing to do to another person, who's there to help you and support you. So I think that you and the physical therapist should have a little meeting outside that room and see how you can make him a little less comfortable. But I love this question because this person gets it. He's not doing recovery. He is acting out and objectifying. I did say I was hurt. I did say I didn't exist. I left. I said, I mean, this is all the right stuff, which is rather than questioning it or, wondering what he meant or, oh, well, he's in bed. Maybe you took care of yourself. You said, "I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to yell, but I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to think about this." And I give you, and then you come here to other people. This is such a great example of recovery. And you reach out and you ask those questions. And so I want to tell you, your recovery is going great, in my opinion. His, and I really wonder how much, and I don't know, and I don't want to know, don't write more stuff, no offense, but I wonder how much he's not taking responsibility for recovery because, he's got a physical health issue. Poor man, he's got a broken back. And so he can't sit in his room and go to a meeting on a phone. And I hate to say that, but what, if you need to get recovery, you're going to get recovery. If it's important to you, you will find a way. You will find someone from the 12-step meeting who each day the different person will come visit you in the hospital and see how you're doing. That's, the depth of that. Of course, if he's not really working a program, then he wouldn't know anyone to come visit him. And so, yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, and I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. Tammy?
100% agree. And yeah, I was like, he would actually have more time. He could read more things. He could be watching, the previously recorded videos. He could be joining the drop-in groups with earphones in. So addiction doesn't take a break, and neither can recovery. So, you can't go, "Oh, well, I'm on vacation." I hear this all the time too. "I'm on vacation, so I'm gonna take a break from my recovery." And guess what? The vacation's a disaster. So
Because wherever you go, there you are.
there you
right?
are. Exactly. Thank you,
Well,
Dr.
Tammy,
Rob.
have a good holiday, and
Thanks
we won't say
everybody
which
for
one it
joining
is.
us. We thought we might be alone tonight, but
I
you proved
know
us
there are
wrong.
36
So
people here.
that's
Anyway,
awesome. So thanks
y'all take
everybody.
care.
See
Good
you next
night.
week. Bye.